Hani's Bethel. There's a small white cabin sitting quietly by a pond, just northeast of Heartland Overflow. From the outside, it looks like it's been abandoned for years, nothing out of the ordinary. But what's inside turns it into one of the darkest dystopians in the entire game. Once you step inside, you're hit with a scene that doesn't feel like the Wild West anymore. It feels like something out of a horror story. There are 11 skeletons seated around the room, all of them positioned like they were part of some meeting or ceremony, but every single one of them is dead. If you look closer, you'll notice they're all wearing the exact same kind of boots, like they belong to some kind of cult. The room is full of melted candles and dust-covered furniture, untouched for who knows how long. And near the fireplace, there's a piece of paper left behind. It's titled Mysterious Sermon. It talks about a second hour under half moon. Sounds vague, but it's actually a hint. If you return to this place at exactly 2 a.m., you'll see a UFO silently hovering above the cabin. No explanation, just a cold, quiet presence. It's clearly inspired by the real-life Heaven's Gate cult, the one where followers took poison believing they were being transported to another world by a spaceship. And even the name Bethel adds to it. In the Bible, it means house of God. But here, it feels more like a house of the forgotten. The Night Folk. If you ever ride into the swamps near Lakay or south of St. Denis, there's a high chance you'll experience something that doesn't show up in any mission. It's not marked on your map, there's no icon, no warning, but something about the area feels wrong. The moment you cross a certain point, it's like the mood of the game just shifts, subtle, but you notice it. This is where one of the darkest dystopians in Red Dead Redemption 2 plays out, right there in the world itself. And then suddenly they appear. Out of nowhere, a man might charge straight at you, barefoot, filthy, eyes locked onto you like he's been watching the whole time. Sometimes he's alone. Sometimes more of them come crawling out from the dark. And if they catch you off guard, there's a real chance they'll kill you before you even react. They set traps too. A body strung from a tree, a strange sound nearby, or maybe a woman crying just off the road. If you go check, she won't answer. And when you're close enough, that's when they move in. These are the Night Folk. They aren't explained. There's no big cutscene, no backstory that tells you what they want. But once you've run into them, that part of the swamp changes for you. It stops feeling like somewhere you're supposed to ride through, and starts feeling like a place meant to keep people out. A bright bouncing boy. Northeast of Ansburg, there's a strange building hidden in the woods, a tall metal tower rising above a lab that looks like it doesn't belong in 1899. The place belongs to Marko Dragic, a lonely genius chasing ideas no one else understands. At first, it seems like just another quirky side mission, but if you follow it all the way through, it turns into one of the darkest dystopians the game quietly hides from plain view. You first meet Dragic at a pond in St. Denis, where he's trying to impress investors with a remote-controlled boat. It's odd, but clearly inspired by real-life inventor Nikola Tesla, who actually demonstrated a wireless, radio-controlled boat back in 1898. Dragic's version is almost identical, complete with torpedoes and naval targets. The investors leave unimpressed. Dragic smashes the controller and storms off, but the real story happens later. If you visit his lab at night during a thunderstorm, he asks for help placing rods outside whilst trying to pull lightning out of the sky. Once they're placed, he reveals what the electricity is for, a mechanical man, his own robot. It takes a few steps, then collapses. Dragic calls it a success, but a few days later, he's found dead in a pool of blood. No break-in, no struggle, just silence. The robot itself? You can find it later, sitting alone on a snowy cliff near Coulter, muttering, "Papa." It's lifeless, but clearly meant to reflect Electro, the first actual humanoid robot built in 1938 by Westinghouse Electric, the same company Tesla once worked for. Dragic thought he was building the future, but what he really created felt more like a warning. Beaver Hollow. If you head deep into Roanoke Ridge, you'll find a place called Beaver Hollow, a cluster of caves and trees tucked into the hills, surrounded by shadows and steep cliffs. The Von der Linde gang ends up here in Chapter 6, but by the time they do, it's already too late. The cracks have spread, the damage is done, and what happens at Beaver Hollow makes it one of the darkest dystopians in the entire game. This is where Arthur brings the gang after Guarma. It's dark, closed off, and crawling with the memory of the Murphy brood, the inbred killers that used to live here. Arthur and Charles clear them out, but the evil doesn't leave with them. It lingers. The caves feel cold. Dutch's tent is set far from the others. People aren't talking much anymore, and when they do, it's mostly suspicion and resentment. This is where Molly O'Shea is shot and burned. It's where Arthur realizes Micah is the rat. It's where Dutch starts sounding less like a leader and more like a man trying to convince himself he still has control. No more camp chores. No more music, no more trust. Even the horses are unsettled, pressed close together, not moving much. The cave itself becomes the final battleground. If Arthur returns here to get the money, it ends in a knife fight with Micah and, depending on your honor, either a brutal death or a slow fade beneath the rising sun. Either way, this place buries something. Not just Arthur, but everything the gang used to believe in. Frozen Watchers. Ride out into the Grizzlies west, and you'll eventually hit Barrow Lagoon, a frozen lake cradled by steep cliffs, dotted with abandoned cabins and that lone, defaced grave. Standing there after dark, with thick fog drifting low, it can feel like the game itself is whispering warnings. This stretch isn't part of any mission, yet it's easily one of the darkest dystopians in Red Dead Redemption 2. No markers guide you here, no signs flash on the HUD, but if you pause and listen, you'll catch a brittle echo. Not music, but the ice beneath your horse cracking, distorted into something almost alive. That sound once made a player feel the world was cursed, fog materializing out of nowhere, animals appearing wounded, shrieking, then vanishing, and the place is full of secret clues like the ice skater's grave. Inspect it, and Arthur sketches the broken gravestone, with missing bones and the ominous phrase, "No ice in hell." Inside the nearby cabin, you'll find ice skates, a cigarette card for Felix Hawley, a once famous ice skater, and a newspaper clipping hinting at a fatal accident. It's a snapshot of a life cut short, now frozen in mystery. Players have spotted wolves stalking a grizzly on the ice, a moose collapsing, and even weird music abruptly interrupting the typical wildlife tracks. In a game full of danger, this corner feels different. Quiet feels wrong. Stillness doesn't soothe, it unsettles. Skinner Brothers.
I ain't gonna lose sleep over you.
If you ride through tall trees in West Elizabeth, there's a chance you'll come across something you weren't meant to find. No warning, no objective, just the woods, and a feeling that something's watching you. That's where the Skinner Brothers come in scene, and what they've done to this area makes it one of the darkest dystopians in the game. Their camps feel like some serious, disturbing crime scenes. Sometimes you'll find a man tied to a tree, torn open at the stomach. Other times it's a woman nailed to a wooden cross, already burned alive. Bodies hang from branches, skinned and disfigured. It's not just violence, it's ritual. These people aren't robbing for money. They're killing everyone just for fun. When John and Charles rescue Uncle during the epilogue, you finally get to see them up close. The Skinners had him half-cooked, tied up, and barely breathing. But even after you burn their camp to the ground, they don't go away. They scatter, they hide, and later they come back. You'll hear them in the trees, torches at night, traps on the trail, horses spooked for no reason. They're not just a gang. They're something that shouldn't exist anymore. And somehow, they still do. The message in the saddle. There's a point in the game when things stop feeling like an outlaw story and start feeling like something darker. And for a lot of players, that moment is Kieran's death. He started off as a joke, a captured O'Driscoll who begged for his life. Arthur didn't trust him. The gang didn't either. But slowly, Kieran earned his place. He worked, he helped, he even saved Arthur's life. And just when it seemed like he was finally part of the family, he vanished. Days pass with no word. Then, during a quiet moment at Shady Bell, something appears out of the trees. A horse walking toward camp with something slumped over its back. As it gets closer, Arthur realizes what it is. It's Kieran. His body's been strapped to the saddle, his head removed and placed in his own hands, eyes gouged out. No speech, no music, just the sound of the camp going still. That one moment shifts everything. There's no cutscene revenge arc, no grand duel, just violence meant to humiliate. A message from the O'Driscolls, we can still reach you. And that's what makes this one of the darkest dystopians in the entire story. It's not just a character death. It's the slow collapse of any sense of safety the gang had left. No one saw it coming, and nothing really makes up for it after. The fall of everything. There's a high ridge near Beaver Hollow where the sun cuts through the trees just right. It's quiet there, peaceful, almost too peaceful for what actually went down. This is where Arthur Morgan dies. Not in battle, not in some blaze of glory, but in a slow, worn-out surrender, fighting off Micah Bell with whatever strength he's got left until there's none. And when it's over, Arthur doesn't get a crowd or a monument. He just rolls over to watch the sunrise, because that's all he's got, one last look before it's all gone. But this moment, it's the unraveling of everything. Dutch's dream, the gang, the ride-or-die loyalty yet. All of it rotted from the inside. By the time Arthur finds out Micah's the rat, it's already too late. The Pinkertons are closing in. Dutch won't listen. And the man who held the gang together longer than anyone is bleeding out in the dirt. If your honor's high, he dies believing John made it out, and maybe that's enough. If it's low, Micah finishes the job like a butcher, and Dutch doesn't lift a finger to stop it. This isn't just one of the saddest parts of Red Dead Redemption 2, it's one of the darkest dystopians in the whole game. Because it's not a monster in the woods or a cult in a cave. It's what happens when trust breaks, when the family you die for walks away and leaves you behind.